Hello, everyone. We are back on the Sports with Sardaji podcast with another preview for you for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix this weekend at Jeddah Corniche Circuit in Jeddah. It's once again a Saturday race because of the Ramadan monthly fasting. And we're going to start off with the last race the previous weekend, the season opener for 2024, the Bahrain Grand Prix. My intro was more exciting than the race. Uh, so Grand Prix, of course, in the city state of Bahrain. Um, After qualifying, there are a lot of hopes that we may see a mildly exciting race, right? So if you look at the timings, Q2, Charles Leclerc was on pole. I mean, not pole, like first position at the end of Q2. And Q3, Leclerc kind of flubbed his lap. Max got pole. But if you compare the times of Q2 and Q3, Charles in Q2 was faster than Max in Q3, right? So if Charles had equaled his performance Q2, he would have been pole easy by a couple of tenths, but or a tenth something, right? Around a tenth or a two. But that didn't happen. I mean, sure, stuff happens. So there's a lot of hope that on Sunday the race, may be interesting. Maybe Ferrari actually, found their mojo. But then the race started, and what do we see? Take it away, Aniket.
We see Max has already reached Jeddah before the other drivers could. So
Exactly.
within by the 10th lap he was halfway to Jeddah, and by like 20th lap he was already in Jeddah while the others were trying to chase him or find him where
Yeah.
exactly he's gone. So
Exactly. This guy, by the time the first round of pit stops came, he was a pit stop ahead of Sergio. Like
yeah.
he could have had a bad pit stop, right? He's like the mechanic could have lost a wheel nut, put a new wheel nut, and he would have still come out ahead. Of course, Red Bull
Yeah,
gave
I
a
mean,
second decision
it
pit
speaks
stop, but
volumes about his dominance at this point. And,
yeah,
there's nobody to challenge him because the man and machine are in such a harmony right now
yep,
that even his teammate is nowhere near to him, in qualifying as well as on the race days. So
yeah,
it's a little sad from a F1 neutral perspective because as F1 fans, we also want to watch good racing. So the sport is kind of in a lull right now because you have one guy right at the front who's not even being challenged by his teammate, and the others are like
yeah,
far back. The other contenders or the pretenders are far back at this point. So from a opening race standpoint, it could be called as one of the worst opening race for say a new fan coming into the sport or someone who's been watching the sport
yeah,
as F1 fan from a long time. So a little
right,
disappointing from that perspective, but have to give kudos to Verstappen and the Red Bull car which he's driving right now. It's it's complete sync with
right.
whatever he wants to do with it. So I
Yeah,
think
this
like
feels like
hmm,
this feels like the 2004 Schumacher season, or the later Lewis seasons after Nico left. Actually, especially was in 2020 was it where the W11 was just simply dominant, right? It
yeah.
felt like Lewis and his car were one,
Hmm,
and we are seeing that with now with Max and the Red Bull, both last year in the RB19 and the RB20 this year. Like
yeah.
if you see Bahrain, there was we saw some good racing behind Max, right? We saw the Mercedes and the Ferraris dueling out. Checo had to put some effort to to fight to the field to go from fifth to second.
Hmm,
It was not exactly easy. They did hold off Checo for a few laps, and then eventually I think Red Bull's strategy with the pit stops paid off, and they kind of just went ahead.
yeah.
But Max was a totally league of his own. He got pole, he won the race, and he got fastest lap. Like there's nothing left for him. Like what's he doing next? Like is he going to start collecting side quests now? Like drive with one hand. Uh, I don't
So
know. Get out of the car, do a pit stop himself. Like what's he doing next?
I would like to see him do the pit stop himself. That'd be like pretty hilarious.
And
Like changing all
he's
four
still
tires.
right. He's still
Yeah, it's like when Lewis won on three wheels in Silverstone in 2020.
yeah,
It's reached
yeah,
that
yeah.
point where Max has to do something different to keep
Yeah, that
F1
was
in
amazing.
check
Like
because
Lewis,
yeah,
Lewis, romping home, right? I mean, we're at that stage now with Max. Uh, but yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's
just
it's
to
unfortunate for F1 as well because we thought this season might see some kind of a battle initially, but
right,
it started off like the way we predicted in our preseason,
yep,
predictions where we thought Red Bull would
right,
be way ahead, especially Max.
yep,
Unfortunately, it's come true, and it looks like it's not going to change.
yeah. I mean, I think at least quali was a bit interesting, right? And also
Hmm.
this year quali was a bit weird. The track was not ramping up as
Yeah.
much as we hoped. Like times were pretty similar. And yeah, even the race, I think behind the Red Bull, I mean behind the single Red Bull of Max, where it's, I mean, apart from the Ferrari and Merc tussle at the, you know, at the top of the order, we saw some interesting battles as well. Alpine, of course, I think we all saw them coming. They would have been 19th and 20th if not for Sargents and Bottas's,
Hmm.
mishaps, right? They were, I think, they were comfortably the last team.
Yeah.
And then what else? We saw Sauber surprisingly finish in 11th.
Hmm.
Um, Pre-season predictions from a lot of pundits put them at, second to last,
Yeah.
right? They were supposed to be a second worst team just above Alpine, but the fact that they got to 11th was pretty good to see. Haas had a bipolar race again. Um, Aston Martin looks like their race pace is nowhere close. They probably need to work on that.
I think Alonso is the only one who's getting that car up to where it
Yeah,
should not be.
yeah,
So
I think Alonso really pushed that car. I mean, you could really
yeah.
see it. That car did not like the track at all. Um, yeah, and I
Even
think
I mean, if we talk about Lewis as well, Lewis had a horrendous race. So he started in P9, which was very like I mean, it was very like I would say
right,
not someone who's not predicted or somebody who's not predicted F1 this season would not have called Lewis to be P9 in his opening
right,
race predictions in qualifying. So that was a
yeah,
little disappointing. So he was able to manage P7, but still like way off his teammate as well as Verstappen obviously. So
yeah.
Mercedes have not. It doesn't look like they've caught Red Bull at this point. So
I think Russell was looking very strong, but I think his tires gave out at the end.
yeah, I think they had
Uh,
cooling issues or something which they mentioned after the race. So
also,
let's
also,
hope it gets resolved for the next
Ferrari,
race.
right? But also, Ferrari was very confident about them, solving their tire deck problems of last season, and
Mm-hmm.
it seems that at least they made some progress. But also, it looks like Red Bull had no tire deck at all. Like
Yeah.
Checo on 20 lap softs was comfortably faster than
Mm.
Sainz on hards. So I don't know
Yeah.
what voodoo Adrian knew he did again with that car, but um yeah, it was. I think Jeddah. I think the for Jeddah, if we come to this weekend's race, I feel you can correct me or contradict me for a different viewpoint. But I think unless other teams fix their issues, I don't know where Checo will be, but I think Max is running away.
Mm.
Um, Jeddah is also again a very fast track. The Red Bull loves its straights, right? It's what the highest average speed on the calendar, right? So
Yeah.
I think if I mean, I think Sainz didn't have too much issues, but I mean, we all know if given equal cars, Charles would be a bit faster than Carlos, right? And Leclerc just didn't have brakes at all. Like it was a real I don't even know how he drove that car to fourth, right, with those brake
He was
problems.
taking all
He was
sorts of
turning
wider
right
angles.
yeah, like his car was completely misbehaving and he was locking up, like people on Reddit may be memeing, oh Charles, let's not lock up this lap challenge,
Yeah.
but I think they probably had some Sunday gremlins in their car, but
Mm-hmm.
if Ferrari can fix their brakes, I think Charles may be closer than 25 seconds to max. But what about Mercedes? Do you think what do you think the problem was this weekend? Because there's a lot of hope. Didn't Lewis stop one of the free practice sessions, right? There's a lot of
He topped
optimism in the Mercedes.
FP2, but
Yeah,
obviously, I mean,
and
everyone was on
FP2 is
different
generally
fuel
longer.
loads, different tires.
No, but isn't generally FP2 also like it's generally race trim, and say the same time as the race, right? So very similar track conditions.
Yeah, I mean, but it was like a flash in the pan kind of thing, wherein obviously nobody expected Mercedes to take that to qualifying. But at least we thought, okay, this Mercedes might be
But
better than
in the
last year's
race,
Mercedes.
people we thought at least in the race they'll be better,
Yeah.
and
So the race, they
decided to
had some issues,
keep it
some
up.
cooling issues which they were managing,
Yeah,
and apparently there was a miscalculation on some cooling aspect which they hadn't foreseen. So Toto Wolff came after the race and mentioned about this. So because of that, they were losing about half a second a lap to the competitors
uh,
ahead. So maybe that gets fixed for the next race, and we see a much closer battle between Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, and Aston Martin. But
yeah,
obviously, the Red Bull will be ahead still. So
yeah,
I'm hoping that we get some entertainment for the podium spots apart from
right.
Max. So okay, I mean now that we are into the preview of this race, as you said, this track is like free flow. I mean, fast flowing and high speed corners, as we saw in 2021 with its first race, and it's 3 years into its inception now. So it's always I would say it's a good track for F1 viewers to watch as well. A lot of overtaking as well happens here. I think there are multiple spots for overtaking.
Yeah,
Being in
it
the
also has
last
multiple
corner.
DRS,
Yeah,
right?
multiple. I think it's multiple DRS zones as well, and it's got
Yeah,
a crazy, intermediate section where a lot of fast flowing corners and, very few instances where cars have to slow down for I would say a hairpin or something like that. So, I would say, from an entertainment point of view, it'll be a good 50-60 laps for people to watch. Hopefully, some overtaking also we see. I mean, it's obviously going to be Verstappen at the front, maybe leading away
yeah,
and into the sunset. But if we see some more action, I think there'll be some good F1 fans. There'll be some happy F1 fans this time around.
yeah. And you know what I'm hoping for? There's another thing about Bahrain, which I mean, it is good in some ways, but also it felt a little like, you know, I think it also contributed to the boring nature. Not a single team had reliability incidents, right? Except a pit stop by Bottas, right? Uh, I mean, we had one spin, but the car rejoined the track. So I think we had like just a couple of yellow flags throughout the race. We didn't have no virtual safety cars, no safety cars, no red flags, nothing. And generally, these are the racing, like these kind of incidents in a race kind of tend to bunch up the field and kind of give
Hmm.
somebody else a chance. Like if there's a
Yeah,
red flag, maybe Ferrari or Merc would do some quick fix, to fix their cooling issues, right? Um, Maybe Ferrari could have done something with brakes so that Charles is not oversteering every lap,
maybe give him a new car.
and we can't do that. I wish, like the early 2000s,
Spare cars.
when Montoya just stood up and took another car. But yeah, I think from that perspective, Jeddah is generally a more kind of action-packed race. It's a street circuit, very tight corners, no runoffs, except maybe I think the last turn where there's a bit of a runoff area. It's really a very tight track.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, obviously, I want the drivers to be safe, but I'm hoping for some racing incidents, to bunch the track up. Maybe I don't know. I don't. I don't mean this, but maybe somebody crashes into Mac while he's overtaking a blue flag guy because nobody behind him is overtaking him, right?
So
So
I
I
think we saw like all drivers finish in Bahrain, right?
yes, all finished, and Max start half the field.
Yeah, I think that was the third time in F1 history that every driver has finished an opening race in
Yeah,
the season. So that's a crazy stat. That means like we've had so many incidents in opening races over the past however
yeah,
long, except for like the last race, which was crazy. So
yeah.
yeah,
And also,
but it's
cars are
it's
also getting more and more reliable over the years, right?
yeah,
I mean, it's good in a way, but also safety cars are like the equalizers of racing, right? Safety cars, red flags,
yeah,
especially red flags. You're back to a standing start, and you're back to the lottery of reflexes of which driver. Because, for example, when Bahrain, Charles had a post start compared to Max,
mm,
so you always want such incidents to kind of even the field.
yeah.
It's like how rain leads you to, I don't know, Esteban Ocon winning race. What was that? Like, uh, Bahrain
Hungary.
all surprises. Yeah.
It's
So I hope
crazy.
we.
It's crazy that, but it's still crazy that we're banking on safety cars and incidents to to give us some action. That speaks
I
volumes
mean,
about the first race.
wasn't Mark doing the same for the second pit stop? Mark underfueled the car in the hopes of a safety car, and there was nothing, not in a virtual safety car.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah. So on the topic of Jeddah, I want to quickly talk about the new track that was unveiled. What the hell was that, Aniket? A 20-story drop?
it's a government which has a lot of money, which wants to just come up with some revolutionary ideas of building an F1 track, and we come up with that kind of stuff. So I don't know like what kind of track that's going to be. It's like 2026, I believe. So that's 2 years from now, or 2027. Not sure. Like the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to see that track. Correct?
Yeah, is it confirmed? Because I know Jeddah was supposed to be like a temporary.
Yeah.
I mean, they say street circuit. It looks like a proper circuit to me, but they said it was
Correct.
supposed to be like a temporary circuit, right?
Yeah. So
But
I think two, three
this,
years is more. Hmm. So Jeddah goes on for a few years, and then this new track comes in. Obviously, all of us saw the track, and they're like, "Oh, this," especially that the first few corners, which is like at such a height and stuff. So I don't know
yeah,
like how the elevation is going to play effect into the entire environment and all that, and how it's going to
right.
be. Are there going to be spectators seated on top there, or are they going to be spectators somewhere below? How that's going to play out, like. So there's a lot of things which we'll need to see at in this
Yeah, I mean, we
project
do
which they
have,
have.
I mean, we do have hilly tracks on the calendar like Kota and Portimao previously during the COVID season, which had big inclines. But I don't think we've ever seen
Hmm.
anything like this.
Yeah, I've
Like
never
what?
seen anything like this too. I don't think we have had any tracks with that kind of an incline, and it should have a decline as well at some point in on the track. So, um,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's gonna be crazy like to see such a track watching from TV, and especially for the fans who are gonna travel there and get a first-hand look of
and
the
for the
the.
driver, man, what are they driving roller coasters now? Like what the hell is going on?
I mean,
Imagine going
drivers
at
have.
imagine going at 200 miles an hour down a freaking like what is that 20-degree incline?
Yeah, I think there are going to be a lot of. I mean, there's going to be barricaded like crazy. I'm not. They might just put them in a cage or something, so that the
Yeah,
drivers don't.
and then you got to drive up. Imagine the load on the car when that's happening, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
They
I
would
don't
need
have many
a
comments
lot of
because
safety barriers, though. They would need a lot of safety related measures because
for sure, for
imagine an
sure.
incident like I don't know what is the most scary incident of the last few years? Joe Guan Yu's tumble crash from what was that 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I mean, if you're talking about I mean, severe crashes, then the Robert Kubica crash in Canada in 2008,
Right. No, but I'm just
very
talking from last few years, right? Yeah,
yeah,
cubic size.
or even Roman Grosjean's fiery crash
Right.
in
And
Bahrain.
now imagine cars going down at 200 miles an hour or 320 Ks, and then
Yeah.
somebody clips somebody, right? Imagine
Uh,
Lewis pushing Max out on that decline. Like Silverstone. Oh my god, I can't imagine.
So, I mean, obviously, it's going to be like there's going to be some, prevention measures. I don't know, like it's going to be completely walled up probably at that chicane,
Yeah,
so that we don't have incidents. Obviously, where people are like having major crashes and stuff. So, this is
yeah.
obviously going to be FIA approved and all that. So, it's going to be interesting to see. I can't wait to see it. I mean, it's going to be like really colorful and all that also, which I heard. So, uh,
They're trying it out to
yeah.
Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, every country wants their own, glamorous circuit at this point. I think the traditional Suzuka, Imola, Interlagos, and all that are just, they'll probably get abolished, or, I would say that F1 is going to move away from them in the next 10
Yeah.
years.
We,
And
we we don't even see like none of the new circuits. We don't see any traditional circuits coming, right? Like, I mean, Shanghai came back on the calendar, but that's about it. All the new tracks. Shanghai is still technically an old track. It's a very old track.
yeah,
But what the new tracks like? I mean, Vegas was a street racing track.
Vegas.
They're
Miami.
looking. There are rumors of Chicago, New York coming. I don't know, racing on the Brooklyn Bridge on the tight grid of Manhattan. What the hell is going on?
I mean,
But
they should just make a Formula One series for USA itself. There's so many tracks in the United States at this point. Just host
I
the
mean,
F1 calendar there itself.
and the sad part is the US actually has good F1 ready tracks which are not being used,
Yeah,
right? Like
I agree.
Indianapolis, what happened to that, right? We
That
saw
the whole
is in,
tire incident, ruined the image of that track.
yeah, but that was because of F1 stupidity of banning pit stops that season to kneecap Ferrari.
Yeah,
That's not on the track. That is on Michelin, right?
that
Michelin
was a Michelin's
completely.
rubber which did not suit the track. But then, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
I loved
we saw,
Indianapolis, to be
saw
frank.
in Baku with multiple tire bursts, and Baku still gets races, right?
That's where the money comes from. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah,
That's gonna
it's
be
been a
interesting. So yeah.
yeah. And talking about the weird week in F1, uh, silly season has continued into the season. So just to recap to our viewers, we got a lot of unconfirmed updates on the Christian Horner incident. So just to recap, a few weeks ago, a female employee of Red Bull allegedly made a complaint to Red Bull senior management that, again, we don't know exactly what happened because there's so many conflicting reports, but that Christian Horner behaved inappropriately. I think that's the most we can say without kind of biasing towards either side. And then Red Bull promptly launched an internal investigation, and we saw Christian Horner being cleared. And then we saw Papa Verstappen come out and say that, oh, this cannot happen. Uh, this team is going to go up in flames, blah, blah. We saw Papa Verstappen being Papa Verstappen. And then at the weekend in Bahrain, we saw Christian Horner and his wife holding hands and coming to the paddock. And then after the race, once Red Bull gave a 1-2 and Christian was on top of the world, we suddenly see Joss Verstappen say, "Oh no, Christian Horner is very good for the team. I think he's a right man." I mean, he gave us some bullshit about he
Hmm.
tended it looked like he was completely walking back his position, but then we got a lot of reports over the last couple of weeks that this is basically a power struggle between Christian Horner on one side and Helmut Marko on the other side. And previously, so if viewers may remember that Red Bull previously had their patriarch, what's the German guy's name? Dieter
Dietrich
Massisch.
Mateschitz,
Yeah, yeah. And
Austrian.
so I don't remember his name properly, but yeah, the Austrian guy who ran Red Bull with an iron fist, and basically he had 49%. The you with your family of Thailand owned the remaining 49, and everybody was happy to work with Mr. Dietler, and all was well. But then he passed away. When was it? Last year, the year before that, he passed away. Right? He was an old man. He was in his 90s. He
Yep.
had a great life, but he passed away, and I think that's when the Red Bull power struggle started, because supposedly Helmut Marko and Christian Horner can't stand each other, and with that gone now, the kids can't behave, right? And the other interesting tidbit that was covered is that so there are two things. One is that Christian Horner feels shortchanged because he has no stake in the Red Bull company, right? Despite all the success he has given Red Bull, he has basically kind of, love him or hate him, has built Red Bull from nothing to the, powerhouse is today, right? Helmut Marko, Adrian Newey, and all of these folks, right? And Christian Horner, who's been the team principal from the beginning of the team formation, he has, no stake in the team. Red Bull has won, what is that, four championships with Vettel, and then what, three with Max so far. So they've won seven drivers' titles, six constructors' titles, and they've always been a very, very like challenger. They never they've always been in the top three, right, in the past couple of decades. So obviously, Christian Horner might have felt shortchanged that he has no stake. And then there was the news yesterday to update you folks that Christian Horner actually tried to buy out the stake of the Thai U with your family with the help of British financiers, and that apparently didn't go well. And the other theory is that this is what caused, like again, we still don't know if the allegations against him are actually true, made up. We really don't know because there's so much going on. However, we're not going to discuss the legal implications and all that. But what we're interested is in the aftermath, because the problem is Red Bull. A lot of the team is either loyal to the Newey and the Marco camp or Christian Horner, and it looks like if either of them leaves, the team is doomed, right? There are reports that Max Verstappen is on, team, obviously, Helmut Marko, right? Um, Max wouldn't even completely support him in the media. I mean, Max was being typical Max, but you would think that if he really supported Horner, he would have, said a bit more forceful language.
Yeah,
And there were also reports last week that a lot of the people in the factory are on Christian Horner's side because he said
yeah.
boss and they love him a lot. Uh, so, Aniket, what do you think is happening? Are we seeing Max in Silver Arrows next year? Because Lewis is gone. Mercy is looking for a driver. Um,
I
there are a lot
think
of drivers hiring this summer, this end of the season. What's going on?
firstly you summarized all those events pretty well in terms of the entire whatever the incident Honor is dealing with, to the fallout, to the power struggle between the different factions in Red Bull. So it's crazy that we are here banking on a Red Bull fallout for F1 to become watchable again. So,
Yeah,
you know, firstly that is crazy in itself. Secondly, if we come to the topic at hand, which is the open Mercedes seat and the whole Verstappen, rumors. So
right.
I think George Russell was asked the same just a few hours back in the Jeddah press conference
Oh,
that
you did?
would
Boss
you
got asked this?
George got asked this, that in
Oh,
terms
okay.
of
I didn't.
how
You're right. Give us the latest.
what would you or how would you consider Max Verstappen, as a teammate? So he gave a very diplomatic answer in terms of, he's been working alongside Lewis, who's the best driver of this generation, and he's, put up an admirable fight. So he welcomes any challengers, or I would say the best drivers to Mercedes, and so on. The very diplomatic answer. So it's
Right.
reached a point where the current Mercedes driver is being asked about it. So I mean, there's obviously some substance to the rumors, and so we're not going to talk like too much about it because it's still far fetched. We don't have anyone serious reporting on it. It's just Automotor und Sport, which is a German publication, who's come out with this, wherein they
Right.
mentioned that there could be Max could leave Red Bull for Mercedes if Christian Horner sticks on with Red Bull, and and there's a power struggle there. So if it happens, yes, Mercedes definitely will have an eye on that, and I'm sure Toto Wolff is, not going to finalize any driver contracts till this entire situation gets resolved. Because if there's a driver like Verstappen, you know, available, he is in no way going to sign up Kimi Antonelli, their
Yeah.
young, brilliant reserve driver, uh, you know, to a spot in 2025 or 2026. So, excuse me. So in terms of that, I think that Verstappen moving to Mercedes is going to be brilliant for the sport, just like how Lewis is going to Ferrari. So, I mean, F1 fans would love changes in sport. Obviously, we love our silly season. We love drivers changing teams.
Right.
That's what makes the sport special. So, it'll be interesting to see how this drags on. I think that this is going to take a while. This is going to take a couple more months, probably till it settles down one way or the other. At this point, my money is still on Max staying with Red Bull, because why does anyone want to leave a powerhouse like Red Bull, like where he could easily win the next two titles and
Yeah.
become
He's.
a five-time world champion by 2025?
Yeah.
So I would say, in conclusion, that I would say these are rumors which, obviously every fan would love to believe and take it far ahead, and have I would say dream of a season where you have Lewis and Ferrari, Max and Merc, Charles in a Ferrari, and Russell, and who else, Alonso in a Red Bull probably. So we
Yeah.
have got those dreams and aspirations, but let's just pump the brakes. It's going to take a while till this gets resolved, and for now, let's
Yeah.
just understand that Max will most likely not leave a powerhouse like Red Bull.
Right. But what would really be incredible is if Lewis, Bono, and New Year on the same team.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, Newey
Yeah,
was obviously interested in the Ferrari job a while back, so if he does make the
right.
switch, I think now is the right time.
Yeah, like he wanted to work with Ferrari and with Lewis at different points in the
Yeah,
past, and he'll get both now, right? But yeah, just to before we wrap up, I just want to say that power struggles are obviously nothing new to the sport, but also as an outsider, it beggars belief that why would you want to break up, something so successful, right?
mm.
Because it's very hard to get a winning combination back when you kind of break up the components. We saw this with Ferrari, back in 2006. Um, See, Ferrari, throughout its history, has always had a lot of political power struggles, right? Before the Schumacher era, well, they were still a romantic team who drivers wanted to race for.
Yeah,
They're always thought of as the underachieving team, right? Before the 5 year Schumacher dominance, and what changed was that not to seem racist towards any of our Italian viewers, but it's often said that a lot of the Ferrari power struggles are because of stereotypical Italian politics. And when the Schumacher era started, obviously it started a few years before the 2000 dominance, but we saw Ferrari actually break their only hire Italians policy when they made Jean Todt the team principal and they made Ross Brawn the chief engineer of the team. And they were two of the most brilliant. They were basically the Toto Wolff and the Bono and the Peter Valls, of that era, right?
James
And
Walls.
right, and they gave Ferrari a lot of success, right? Before Fernando Alonso, they shocked everybody with two titles. That's Nando for you, but in that Renault. But in 2006, when Ferrari, the mothership, Ferrari, the car company, called the new CEO, Luca di Montezemolo, he did not like that the Scuderia Ferrari Formula One team uh, was basically run by Michael Schumacher, Jean Todt, and Ross Brawn, right? It was again that it was he did not like that they had too much power in the F1 team, and that he as a factory team, could not make them dance to his tunes. So what does he do? Um, he wanted to get Kimi Raikkonen, who was the upcoming star then, and he wanted Schumacher gone. And it's often said that Schumacher did not know that Ferrari was announcing his retirement. That's how ugly it was towards the end. So in the 2006 season, when Schumacher announced his retirement at the end of the race, that was because Ferrari had preempted him by leaking to the media that Michael Schumacher is retiring. So he has basically no choice. And then after he left, you saw Braun leave, Todd leave. Basically, what happens when you break
Yeah,
up a successful team? People loyal to the formula leave. And obviously, Ferrari still had their mojo. So, Kimi won the title very narrowly in 2007, and Massa narrowly lost the title in 2008 to Lewis. But then Ross Brawn left, Jean Todt retired, and we haven't seen Ferrari win a title again, right? They come close. Vettel led for a few races, 17 and 18. Leclerc had a spark of hope in 2022, but we basically haven't seen anything since 2008. And even
mm.
2008, Ferrari won the constructors title because of Spygate, right?
Yeah.
So,
Turn 7.
so it is instructive for Red Bull to kind of learn from history because you see Mercedes, despite all their dominance, Mercedes has been rock solid, right? You have
Mm-hmm.
Toto. Lewis is leaving, sure,
Yeah,
but from a management perspective, it's like Lewis is not leaving because of power struggle, right? Lewis is leaving because he wants a new challenge. It's a very different
mm.
situation,
Correct.
right? So you have Toto, who's well, at least as of now, it's not going anywhere. James Allison is back in his old role, right? Of course, Valls left for Williams, but again, there's all very amicable decisions.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, it would be instructive for Red Bull to maybe, copy Mercedes and not Ferrari, because you have Horner, Newey, and Marco. These are maybe not Marco as much, but Horner and Newey have been the heartbeat of the team for the last 2 decades, right?
yeah,
And yeah, it's going to be really, really sad that, right? Like for example, Mercedes' dominance ended because of Red Bull working hard, and developing a better car and winning the new regulations, right? That's how you want teams dominance to end, right?
Mm.
I'm pretty sure even for Toto and Fred Vasseur, if Red Bull's dominance ended because of the power struggle, it would feel very empty. Because at the end of the day, these are all hyper competitive people, right? Lewis wants to beat Red Bull because he's faster than Red Bull, right? Not because they had some stupid political power struggle and the team broke off. But
Yep.
yeah, I think that's where we'll end today.
Wait,
And
before we go, Saudi
yeah,
Arabian predictions.
I think Max is winning, but I think Checo won't be P2. I'm hoping Ferrari and Mercedes kind of resolve their issues,
Yep.
but I I'm going to go with I'm actually going to go with Lewis in P2 because and Charles in P3 because of Lewis FP2 performance, which is race trim. So I'm going to go with Lewis
Mm.
in P2 and Charles in P3, and yeah, I think Max is winning.
Yeah.
Maybe I hope it's not by 25 seconds, but I think Max is winning. What
I
about you?
think I think it's a Red Bull 1-2 again for me.
You think it's Red Bull 1-2?
And
All right.
unfortunately, to our viewers watching, I'm gonna predict a Red Bull 1-2. And P3 is gonna be up for grabs, I mean, whoever wants to take it can,
Yeah, pick
go
one.
ahead and
Pick one.
take it, I would say. So at
Pick
this
one. Do
point,
you think it's a smooth operator again?
yeah, I mean, Carlos is, started the season well again. So, yeah, he's got something to play for. He doesn't have a seat next year so far. So,
Yeah. Right.
who knows? I think I actually would put my money on Carlos.
All right.
Yep.
So there you are, folks. Aniket goes with Max, Checo, and Carlos, and I'm going with Max, Lewis, and Charles. But what we can all agree is that Max's wings are not being clipped anytime soon.
No way. That's
Uh,
for sure.
yeah. So we'll see you next time. We'll see you after Saudi. There's a 2 week gap between Saudi and Melbourne.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll have a pod after Saudi and discuss Saudi. And I think silly season is going to get more and more interesting in the next few days. So stay tuned for that. See
Yep.
you, everybody.
See you on the next episode.
Yeah. Bye, guys.